All right, everybody, I am back with a brand new DC update. And I have some good news in today's DC update. And boy, the news coming out about the sale of Warner Brothers really has all of the shills out there flopping back and forth on who they want to buy Warner Brothers. And the messaging is freaking hilarious. Because do you remember about a month or so ago when they had announced that Paramount said that if they bought Warner Brothers, and it didn't even come from Paramount, it came from some people like Campy and a few other guys claiming they had inside knowledge that if Paramount got Warner Brothers, that they would keep Safran and James Gunn in the mix. Well, now there's some contrary information out there, and everybody's now rooting for Netflix to get Warner Brothers. And it's freaking hilarious to watch and see how they go back and forth depending upon what the news and the fake rumors are. And again, guys, we don't know what the truth is because we don't have a behind-the-scenes look at the bidding process and what is happening. We can only look at the reports that are out there. And we have some funny things to look at today and the responses from the shills. And honestly, I don't care who gets it as long as the DCU gets restored. And there's good news. I will tell you guys right off, I really want Paramount to get it. Because I know the Ellisons, their background, they would have never let an orgy be put inside of Peacemaker. They would have never allowed the necrophilia. They probably wouldn't even allowed Creature Commandos to go forward at all. Because that's who they are. And I would prefer them to get it because you get theatrical releases. We don't have to worry about that. And honestly, most of the network television that I watch, like Survivor, FBI, and some other programs are on Paramount. Now, it's very upsetting that my favorite writer-director, the guy who did, I'm forgetting his name off the top of my head, the guy who did Yellowstone, a lot of his programs were on Paramount, and now he's moving on because Paramount just said that his shows were costing too much money, and this was after the Ellisons took over. And so there's a lot of moving parts, and we're going to take a look at some of this stuff sprinkled in with some DCU information, but it is really funny to see. I just laugh at all the responses and the people. You could tell that the DC fans are just a fish out of water, and they're gasping for air, or not gasping for air. They're gasping to be put back in the water at this stage, and it's freaking hilarious to watch. It is funny to watch another group of people have the meltdowns at this stage, and those of us who still have hope that we get to see the finish of, what Zack Snyder started, and it is definitely a real possibility. But let's take a look at all of the information that I've grabbed since my last update. First up, this is coming from Nexus Point News that looks like Claes Bang, Matt Smith, and Sam Rockwell are on the short list to play Brainiac in Man of Tomorrow. It says these names have not been independently verified as casting remains ongoing. And so this is the rumor out there. This was reported by numerous outlets, so I do believe it to be true. I don't know Matt Smith. I just don't like his look that much. I think of everyone, I think Sam Rockwell, honestly, would make a good Brainiac out of all of these guys. But, there are definitely other people I think that would fit the bill even better, but we'll find out as casting moves forward. So the scoop out there, and this comes from Charles Gasparino, Paramount Skydance has a plan B if Netflix wins the auction for Warner Brothers Discovery. Appeal to Warner Brothers Discovery shareholders. Okay, and we're going to see more about what's going on. Paramount really wants Warner Brothers. They are the ones. They really, 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 really want Warner Brothers. But Netflix looks like it has a leg up. And we're going to take a look at that today with some of the stuff that I have grabbed. Also, Matt Reeves made some noise this week when he simply posted on X, ha ha, ha ha, ha. And people are now thinking the Joker is going to be the main villain of the Batman Part 2. But they're also casting somebody else. It looks like somebody else is going to be cast in this movie, and we're going to take a look at who this individual is here in a few minutes. And that's also raised some eyebrows. So a fan account posted this, and I thought this was funny, and we're going to see what someone said as a response. David Cornsweat Superman defeated Ultraman. The engineer, Lex Luthor's Raptors, his incredible fighting skills show that he's more experienced with environmental combat, wrestling, super speed striking, tactical brawling, etc. So he can definitely beat Henry Cavill's with ease. And I thought this was hilarious. So this person, Jay Alva, is tied to the Snyderverse. He says, to be honest, if he's so experienced, then why didn't he bring Metamorpho with him in the end fight? Metamorpho could have easily negated both Ultraman and the Engineer single-handedly. And there's somebody who knows their superheroes. And so if you want to get into it, the Superman movie was the most on-the-surface superhero film I think I've ever seen. It was the most generic, and that's what I mean by that. They took the easy way out on everything. There was no real thought involved in these characters, and it's funny to watch people come out and show these people their knowledge and why they should be in charge of these properties. So, according to James Gunn, and this comes from Screen Rant, the DCU has 3 main powers: governments, corporations, and metahumans. So that's what every DC movie and TV show is going to be about. Governments, corporations, and metahumans. Yeah, sounds like this has all been done before. So this comes from Puck News, and everybody picked up on this. James Gunn and Peter Safran may not have full control of DC Studios if Paramount buys Warner Brothers. And boy, did people run with this week. And this makes me want Paramount to be, I want them to win. I do. If this is true, then yes, I want Paramount to take over. But again, I don't care if it's Paramount or Netflix, as long as we get the continuation and the conclusion of what James Gunn or Zack Snyder had started with Man of Steel and his Justice League movie. After that conclusion, people, whatever Warner Brothers wants to do, they can have at it. As long as I just don't want James Gunn in charge. I've never been a fan of James Gunn. People tried to misconstrue what I said in another video as I don't care which side continues forward. And they tried to say that I was not beholden to each side. And they totally didn't watch the video because I was talking about the hashtag within the DCEU, fandom, which I think it's ridiculous that there's even a war going on with those hashtags. I think it's just the dumbest thing. It's just people trying to flex in front of everybody, and I think it's silly. And so it had nothing to do with the DCU or the DCU. I would rather not see James Gunn have his stuff go forward. I think his stuff is disgusting, and if it went away, I wouldn't be one bit angry, upset, or otherwise. I just hope it goes away at some point, or if they continue with it, he's not in charge. So James Gunn announced this yesterday. Man of Tomorrow is confirmed to feature a few existing songs. I can't post my top songs because they are all in Man of Tomorrow, but I can post some of the other stuff. And so he talked about some of his favorite songs. We also got some information about songs that are going to be in Supergirl. As a person who loves movies and TV shows, I do believe that the emotion and I do believe that the power behind feature films comes from the score 99% of the time. I don't think songs should be used. I think it's a cheap way out. It's just a way for these creatives to get their favorite songs put into films. It's not about what serves the movie the best. And I do believe the emotion comes from the acting and the score, not from songs. So if you don't want to know any spoilers about the Supergirl trailer, you might want to leave now, which is reported to come out next week. Here is a Supergirl teaser trailer description. Fun, rebellious, and action-packed. Music featuring a track by Blondie. The teaser opens with a surprisingly grounded and comedic beat. Oh, there's that word comedy again. We see Krypto, the superdog, casually lifting his leg to pee on a space rock. Ooh, surprising. Who would have ever thought that would happen in the James Gunn DCU? The camera pans to Kara, Supergirl, who is waking up looking disheveled, groggy, and clearly nursing a massive hangover. Great role model for kids. As she tries to gather herself, the iconic sound of Blondie kicks in, shifting the energy instantly. The trailer explodes into a fast-paced montage of stylized action. We see Kara blasting through cosmic environments, delivering brutal punches to alien threats, and flying with aggressive speed. The vibe is distinct from Superman. It's grittier, louder, and colorful, focusing on a Supergirl who is ready to fight. Yep, totally sounds like it fits in with James Gunn's DCU. Does not sound all that interesting at all. It seems like the same generic stuff we've been getting from the MCU and the DCU for the last 5 years. Also, Google announced that its most watched film of 2025 was Superman. So take that for what you will. I don't think that really represents a lot of people, because if you talk about all of the streamers out there, Google is the lowest one. And it's funny that that's where they took this from. If you look at who has the share of the market, now I personally have Google TV on all of my TVs. I prefer the interface because it's not skewed towards Amazon and it's not skewed towards other companies. They will give you real results and it can tell you what service everything is on. But like the Fire Stick pushes you towards Amazon stuff. And so I will tell you that the Roku and Amazon Fire Stick have a much larger share of the streaming market than Google TV does. Google is at the bottom. So here you go, The Batman Part 2. Scarlett Johansson is in talks to join the Batman 2. And it's rumored that she is going to play the love interest of probably Robert Pattinson. That wasn't confirmed, but that she would also end up being two-sided as a villain. And people are speculating on who that is. They think she might be Mask of the Phantasm, that they might be bringing that in. We don't know. If she plays Beaumont, so be it. But we don't know who she's going to play just yet. We don't know anything about the Batman 2, except that she is being looked at to be cast in there. So this comes from Charles Gasparino again on this whole Netflix-Warner Brother merger. Scoop: if Netflix wins the bidding battle to control HBO Max and the Warner Brothers studio, Trump's DOJ antitrust chief, Gail Slater, and her senior staff are working on plans to launch a sweeping, multi-year investigation into Netflix's allegedly monopolistic control of the streaming market, according to people with direct knowledge of the matter. The Trump administration is said to be unmoved by Netflix's recent lobbying effort to argue the deal doesn't violate antitrust law. Now, let me explain why this is happening. This is because Paramount wants to get it. Trump is very close to the Ellisons. He is very close to Paramount and Skydance. He's the one that helped greenlight, the fourth film with Jackie Chan and what's his name, the Rush Hour 4. And so he is trying to push them to do certain things in Hollywood. And just if Netflix gets it, they do plan on putting this in a 2-year battle in which things could be in limbo for quite a while. And I think they're doing this as a strong arm tactic, but we'll see what happens. There's more news on this whole who's going to get it here in just a minute. Also, here is the official logo for DC Studio Supergirl. Looks just like Man of Steel. No originality. There's no flair to anything that they do. It's just more of the same old generic stuff. So recently, Dwayne Johnson was asked about the results of the DCEU movie Black Adam. He said, "I loved making Black Adam. We had a great time. Loved creating those characters and introducing other characters as well in that universe." He concluded, "Wish that universe well and on to others." He would totally come back if there was a return. He is, I think everybody who is involved with the DCEU would like to see those characters continue. And we will see what happens with this whole selling of Warner Brothers. There is a chance this all could get restored. Also, it's pretty cool that Gal Gadot posted today, never before seen casting audition with Ben Affleck and Gal Gadot for Batman vs. Superman. And if you guys have the opportunity to go and check this out, you should. It's pretty cool to see. And it's nice to see that all of the people that are involved with the DCU are all out there making noise right now when they haven't been doing this for the last several years. That all of a sudden with the sale, everybody's coming out of the woodwork making noise, and there's a reason for that. All right, guys, so let's talk about what's happening with the sale as of now. I did grab a few other screenshots, but for some reason they don't always show up in my photos library, and I got to figure out why that happens. But as of right now, the word on the street is that Netflix has given the highest amount for bidding for the DC. Well, not just DC, but for Warner Brothers. That they are at the cream of the crop. they're the one coming to the table with the most money, which is panicking people over at Paramount. So it does look like it's going to come down to Paramount and also to Netflix. It's going to be one of those two companies that does end up purchasing Warner Brothers. Now, let's talk about, I've already talked about how I feel about Paramount. Now let's look at Netflix and why they might be a good choice as well. It has been reported over the last couple of weeks that that everything that basically Zack Snyder was working on over at Netflix has been shut down. And you have the gun shills out there saying that's because his stuff didn't do well and they're moving on from Zack Snyder, which is not really the case. The fact is, they could be doing that to open up his calendar to be able to work on the Snyderverse if it comes back. They understand. I'll never forget how before all of the bidding happened that everybody talked about how Netflix was never going to buy Warner Brothers. And I said, just wait. Those comments came from a month ago, some kind of a interview that was going on. And if you watch what they said, they didn't say they weren't going to bid for it. They simply said if it made sense, they would try and pick it up. And they are really trying to pick it up. And they had great success with Stranger Things. It's now the most watched American show ever on Netflix, the largest minutes coming out for its debut. And some pretty crazy stuff. So, I wouldn't mind if Netflix picked it up and they continued the Snyderverse over there because they have a really good working relationship with Zack Snyder. And if I'm a cutting the cord expert and I know a lot about streaming and the different services and what goes on behind the scenes. And I will tell you that a lot of people try to talk about how Rebel Moon was a failure on Netflix, and it wasn't, because Zack Snyder went to Netflix and had one price tag for all 4 films. Part 1, Part 2, and the director's cut of Part 1 and Part 2 were all billed out as one cost, as one film, and for the amount of streams they got just on the first part, it covered everything else that came out no matter how well or how bad it did. So it justified the amount of money that they spent on the project. He got a lot of views on Rebel Moon. So anybody that tells you that it was a failure, they don't understand the streaming market. They don't understand what's going on. I am a cutting the cord expert. I follow this stuff on a regular basis, and you betcha, Netflix would not be a bad choice if this is where they wanted to continue the Snyderverse. But I don't care who gets it as long as they pick it up. But again, I would prefer Paramount. But if Netflix gets it, so be it, as long as things go in the direction for what the fans have been asking for. And I do believe that Netflix does understand how important these properties are. I know the Ellisons do. I've seen them bring back Dexter. And, they're bringing back Dexter simply because they understand how important that character is to the fan base. And they nixed the prequel series in favor of continuing. I think they should do both, honestly. But to continue on with the original Dexter story, so that Resurrection will be back next year as well. Right now is a really good time to be people like myself on the sidelines rooting for the DCEU. Zack Snyder sees it. In fact, I do believe that Zack Snyder just posted a picture on his Instagram. His most latest picture was him and Jim Lee together that I've shared a long time ago. He's now shared it on Instagram, and he was talking about his collaborations with him and how Jim Lee really understands the DC universe. He's never said anything like that for James Gunn. So keep that in mind. He took a picture with James Gunn, but if you look at the picture with James Gunn versus the picture with Jim Lee, and then you look at the comments that he's made, you can clearly see where his mind is. And it's a good time to be a DCU fan. There is definitely more hope now than there has been in a very long time. And I'm very much looking forward to this sale and seeing what happens. All right, guys, leave your comments below and we will see you on the next video.